Hi everyone, welcome to another comics loving, arts loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking a second time with author, creator, educator, Cara Florence Goldstein. Cara, welcome to the podcast, or welcome back, I should say.
Hey, Jason, it's great to see you again. It's been a little while.
It is great to see you as well. You were actually on the inaugural issue, or episode, I guess, of the podcast. So there's a nice sort of symmetry here bringing you back.
Yes, it was really great to be on the podcast. It was my first podcast, so thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Well, of course. Glad to have you. And I know that you've been creating. You shared some of your pieces with me and some of your ideas with me just in the past couple of weeks. So, any update that you'd like to provide on what's new in the world of teaching and creating?
Yeah, so I have a cartooning workbook that's going to be released pretty soon, and we're going to give listeners that link so that they can purchase the book. It is meant to get students to tell their own stories. So
Hmm.
we're developing characters, we're developing their expressions, their body movements, the backgrounds of the scenes, and we're also getting to the heart of the story for each student. So this is based on my teacher, Al Baruch, who created Captain Hook for Disney. And he had a weekend comics class when I was 9 years old that influenced a lot of people who are out there now working for Pixar, working for DreamWorks. Ali Solomon is one of them, and she has like an amazing series about New York and a book out, and she does stuff also for the New Yorker and different venues like that. And basically, his whole concept was that kids have a voice and
Hmm.
we all have a story. And a lot of times when students create comics, they want to mimic. So they want to draw a SpongeBob, they want to draw what they know, then they feel confident. And we support that. Like I support that, but I also really feel that each student does have a genuine story,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that is also happening out in comics today. So like Raina Telgemeier, Kazu Kibushi, those stories are very deeply related to their childhood and deeply related to their experiences. So if we get kids early on to get that confidence and get their work out there, there's an increase in literacy and self-esteem. There's an increase in connection. A lot of boys that I teach end up telling the stories to their parents and sort of connecting emotionally in ways because they have to think through the characters' viewpoints. So I've just found this work to be very deep and very interesting and very important. And I think all students connect to comics. It's not something that kids like sit down and say they don't want to do. So
Yeah.
that is an advantage as a teacher. So any teacher, if they can connect comics to their curriculum and integrate comics into their curriculum, the student learning is going to increase. And I've also seen that, like, over the years, I've been an art teacher for SF Unified, going into classrooms, seeing what classroom teachers are doing. And when they're adding this to reading logs and they're adding this to science class, making diagrams and different things like that, the students are more excited. They're looking forward to being at school. There's collaboration. The whole energy in the classroom just ends up being just amazing, just a lot of excitement.
Yeah, yeah. As a teacher, I know that sort of balance. Sometimes there's this pressure on, well, we've got to have them practice. We've got to have them do these particular skills. But, you know, creating something is one of the highest level activities that you can engage in. So when you're talking about that energy, when you're talking about that high level of engagement, just thinking about that and how you're really doing pretty complicated work through the arts that way.
Yeah, and I think just the open-ended nature of what we bring as art teachers is a big gift to the regular structure of school,
Hmm.
right? So the kids have to, it's very disciplined to be at school all day for that long, right? And they're going through math and they're going through, like very difficult things sometimes. And then they finally get a break. It's like I finally get to be who I am and
Hmm.
express my own ideas And there's an open-endedness to comics. Like we have superpowers, we have, all kinds of things that don't apply to the rules of life. And that's what makes comics beautiful. That's why people are so interested in superheroes and shape-shifting. And, that's why Pixar got us through the pandemic. We
Hmm.
needed that sense of imagination and possibility.
Yeah. I'm curious about the birthplace and the origin of the book and the activities. Are these things that you've sort of seen the need for as you're teaching, sort of your own curriculum that you kind of created as you've gone?
Yeah, so I'm a big bookstore person. At the end of the week when I finished work, I would just go to the bookstore and I would go to the comics section of a lot of bookstores. And I actually met Andrew Farago at Moe's Books,
Mm-hmm.
the curator of the Cartoon Art Museum, one of my best friends. I just kind of looked up, we both had stacks of comic books. And he said, "Oh, those are like my friends, like Jason Shiga,
Oh yeah.
all these people in my staff were his friends." And he was like, "Why don't you just come hang out?" So I was looking at, how-to comic books, and I was also looking at a lot of the art of Pixar and the art of Disney books, right? So what is the art leading up to the animation? So a lot of those artists are doing very technical work, and they're looking at expressions, they're looking at movement, and they're doing this for every single animated film. So
Hmm.
I thought, why don't we apply this to comics, right? If there was a book when I was a kid that showed me technically how to develop the character, how to get the expression, how to make it move, take me step by step so I get confidence each step, then I would have had everything more planned and
Yeah.
built. And I can just, I can see the vision of the whole comics when I'm when I'm going through these activities, right? So I want to break it down very simple. So we start with the shape of a face, and then we build the skeleton. So a lot of students, they want to build the body outside in. And so like Pixar builds and Disney builds inside out. So we're looking at the bones. Then we're looking at like the shape, the muscles, then the clothing. And the beauty of this is you get to be a fashion designer, you get to be an architect, you get to be an interior designer, you get to be almost like a film director, and
Hmm.
that you're making every single decision in the story. And I find that just beautiful, like to give the kids that kind of control. Like this is your world. Like this is the job, is to build a world that makes sense to others. It might
Hmm.
make sense to you, but make sense to others so that we can now like really have something solid. And what I like about the template is it's good for any story. So once you finish it, you make another template. So kids have repeated my class since they were 6 years old. I had a student who's now at CalArt doing animation. He
Hmm.
started in my comics class on a Sunday morning. It was a 2-hour class at SF Park and Rec, and I was there for about 10 years. And that kid showed up like every Sunday for when he was like 6 to when he was 12. And then
Wow.
he started teaching with me. He was like, "Hey, can I?" During the pandemic, he was like a guest artist. And now he's doing stickers, animation, and all this kind of stuff. So I can almost see the application when the kids are starting, that this is going to end up different in a different place for each kid, right?
Hmm.
So one of
Hmm.
my students owns Diaz Coffee in Oakland, and his vision was like, I want to own a business and I want to put art into my business, right? And another student's doing designing storefronts. So I'm lucky in that I'm getting, into my mid 40s. And now I can see what the students are creating for their life, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just art, it's building your creative practice. It's understanding how they can contribute as individuals to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And um, it sounds like that particular student that's now at CalArt, uh, sounds like the one of the recipes for success is that persistence and coming back every Sunday. You're talking about sort of the discipline of some of the other uh, areas of school or areas of life, but arts is it's this really fun discipline in a strange way, or at least it can be, I suppose.
Yes, and they also, the kids also take turns that in life that are surprising and fun for me. Like he got an internship in the outer sunset at a TV station. And then he started doing the newspaper comic at school,
Mhm.
and then it was a t-shirt company, and then he was doing stickers, so it was like he was branching out. Like every year there was like a different branch. So it was like very complicated and very interesting to see the layers in like really exciting ways.
Yeah, yeah. The last time we talked, I believe you were working on a book that was sort of your visual journey, some of the places that you've been, and you were celebrating some of those geographic places through art. Curious how that's going, and curious about what particular questions, steps, challenges you're thinking about and you're creating right now.
So my own art is on a pause because I'm building also another business on how to help students with their portfolio for college and high school. So
Nice,
students
nice.
who want to go to art school, there isn't a lot of support for parents who are guiding their kids in this process. But I worked at School of the Arts. That was my student teaching, and I've been tutoring kids over the years, about 15 years now, to create their own portfolio. So I'm doing that online, and that's you can take that from anywhere in the world. So I basically, take you through each step of what you would need to get into RISD or get into Cooper Union or get into any school that you want to go to. So that's another business that I have, and it's called portfolioprepcoach.com. That's where you can find me there. My own work, it was very exciting. I got some pieces in the SF Examiner that were related to that series I was working on. And
Hmm.
for those weeks that I was working on that, I think they bought four of four of my pieces of art. Um, and then I had to find the newspapers, and in the city, they were in like the little newspaper stands and they were all gone. So that we
Hmm.
had to like find them like the magic ticket, like Willy Wonka. But they ran out of money. So the whole series that the Cartoon Art Museum was curating, Andrew was curating, got put on hold. So I sort of stopped that
Hmm.
kind of in the middle of last year and just really focused on how can I help uh, this workbook get finished and get these ideas out to people.
No, no. Well, I'm certainly glad to support that in any way that I can. And for listeners out there that are curious about where they can go, where they can see the workbook, where it sounds like at some point soon they might be able to share a portfolio with you. Any spaces where they might kind of follow up.
Yeah, so Cara's cartooningacademy.com. There's no apostrophe, it's just CARAS. Cartooningacademy.com is going to take you to my cartooning site. And there you can find me. And the Art Portfolio Prep Coach is its own website right now, and just artportfolioprepcoach.com. So there are two different, aspects of what I'm doing.
Awesome, awesome. Well, anything that we've missed in the talk through that you want to make sure to mention, anything that I might have missed or glossed over that you want to echo before we close out?
Yeah, I think one of my goals is to train teachers. So if you're a classroom teacher, if you're a school site and you want to integrate comics into your curriculum, I'm going to have a license. So you can buy that license, and every student in the program would get my workbook, an art kit, and also some mentoring for teachers. So this past year, I was a teacher mentor coach
Hmm. Hmm.
for first year teachers, and I was able to really like see the challenges of curriculums that don't have comics, and just kind of help add comics with some really good results. So I really want to get this curriculum out there to give people support. If this is something that they want to do, it's something I've done for about 15 years. And I feel like the program is very solid because I've tested it. So I've worked in just thousands of classrooms over the years, gotten feedbacks from the students and adapted to something that I really feel like works. It's very simple. A lot of the times, students will get the book and they'll just see it. Like it's almost like I don't need to say anything. But I do think having that support of another teacher who's done a program is very valuable. So I want to be there as support as part of this program.
Awesome, awesome. And you just made a comment that I think is a really key teacher move, which is listening to feedback from students, sorting through that, and then making changes and adapting. I think that's such a wonderful thing to do. And I try to do that as well, although sometimes the feedback is something like, can we have a free day? And it's like, well, we've got stuff to do. But really sorting through that feedback, I think, is a crucial step in reflecting on that. So good on you for doing that. And I hope that teachers out there will be in touch to chat with you about their practice.
Thank you so much, Jason. I've seen your series grow so big and just feature so many interesting cartoonists, and you're really supporting us. So I want to thank you also for giving us a voice. A lot of
Absolutely.
times we're out there working on stuff, just by ourselves, and it's hard to reach people. So you're giving us the bridge, and just really thankful for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words and glad to support in any way that I can, truly.
Thank you.
Thank you.